You're watching Satluj TV News. I'm Angus Scott in London. Ever since Justin Trudeau announced last week evidence that India was behind the murder of Sikh Khalistani campaigner Hardeep Singh Nijjar, global media has been alight with stories of the implications of his statement. However, like several Western nations, Canada's own domestic news media has had to rely heavily upon narratives broadcast by Indian news outlets for its information. The problem being, of course, it's widely known that Indian media is extensively controlled by its government, and any dissenting news outlets critical of Narendra Modi's administration find themselves quickly shut down. Which means the narrative broadcast by Indian media is deeply biased in favour of the Indian government, and is essentially a mouthpiece for the ruling Hindu majority party, the BJP. This fact is no secret and is the reason India now ranks only 161st place out of 180 countries in the World Free Press Index, only a few places above North Korea. So what does this mean for Western nations? It's become clear that many Western news outlets are sourcing much of their so-called factual information based primarily on the heavily distorted information broadcast by the Indian media. Across several mainstream news programmes, when discussing the recent diplomatic spat between Canada and India, news stations are interviewing commentators who equally base their own views upon what they have read or heard from Indian news media. And worse still, Indian commentators interviewed by news anchors tend to be of Hindu origin, who consistently offer the same biased narrative. In Canada itself, where Justin Trudeau remains a relatively unpopular Prime Minister, his political opponents have seized upon the easy opportunity offered by the Indian media keen to undermine Trudeau, and are deliberately rebroadcasting the same false narrative for their own political advantage. As a result, the Sikh Press Association, the international news agency working through the Sikh community to provide accurate multimedia content for global media, has been inundated with complaints in recent days about the state of the overall coverage over the Khalistan issue. As they report, while Sikh organisations have been diligently working to provide reporters with information and access to the Sikh community, Canadian media is consistently platforming Indian state propaganda and talking to commentators about Sikhs instead of actually to Sikhs. The Indian government's reach is extensive and it enjoys a powerful army of propagandists working diligently to ensure the world's press default to the Indian government's version of events, a fact that many critics have highlighted across social media. What is noticeable, however, is that unlike India, most Western nations do allow a platform for dissenting voices, free to criticise and hold governments to account. A contrast never more highlighted by the fact that Satluj TV News itself still remains blocked in India. You've been watching Satluj TV News, and don't forget to click on that subscribe button to make sure you get to see stories as they're broadcast. And of course, if you have any comments or opinions on any of our news stories, you can comment below, or indeed drop us a direct message at message@satlujtv.com. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. For Satluj TV News, I'm Angus Scott in London.